It's live on Facebook, it says right now.
Great. Hello, my name is George Harris. I'm curator and artistic director here at Two Rivers Gallery. Welcome to this artist talk with Adad Hannah, streamed live on Facebook. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we are here on the traditional unceded territory of the Lheidli T'enneh. Presently at Two Rivers Gallery, we have an exhibition called Reflections, Meditations on 35 Years of Collecting. This exhibition uncharacteristically takes up both of our exhibition spaces. One of those exhibition spaces is given over almost entirely to work by Adad Hannah, specifically a project he produced in 2014 collaboratively with many members of our community called Virginia Hall 1914. We figured what a great opportunity to take the time to check in with Adad and learn about his practice as an artist, both before and since, and to maybe learn a little bit more about Virginia Hall as well. I wanted to, before we begin, acknowledge that Kate Hurley is in the background, sort of providing some support. Now, we can't see you, we can't hear you. So if you have any questions, please type them into the Facebook live stream. And towards the end of the talk, Kate will read them out. I also wanted to thank Callie from Island Deaf and Hard of Hearing, excuse me. She will be providing captions for tonight's talk. So welcome everybody, and Adad Hannah, welcome. I'm thrilled that you're able to join us tonight. Thank you for taking the time to do so. I would love to give it over to you and hear what you have to say.
Sure. Well, thank you for the invite. I'm here in Burnaby on Hankanamin and Squamish land. Today I will tell you about my work and kind of my work before that led up to the project that is now at Two Rivers Gallery, and then the project at Two Rivers Gallery, and then I can talk about work that came afterwards or since then. Is somebody, I usually like to take questions kind of as we go, but is there anybody, will I be able to, I can't see questions here, right, in the Zoom, so it's going to be through Facebook, and then George, you'll tell me the questions. Is that how it'll work? Who knows?
If you'd prefer to receive questions as we go, I can read them out as they come up. Oh, you're muted.
Yep, I'm happy to answer questions anytime, so you can just interject, and then I'll answer the questions as we go. So I will now share my screen. Okay, so oh, that's not. Well, I won't start with this one because it's jumping around. So in 2001, I started shooting these videos of people standing still. And what I would do is just set the camera up on a tripod, ask my models not to move, and press record. And so what you would end up with is what you're looking at here. It's something that looks like a photo or a snapshot, but is actually a video running in real time. So this was called Dinner in Florida, and these are all my relatives in Florida. And when I started doing these, I was thinking about kind of trick photography, early film, and trying to take away from video the things that made it video. So there's no movement, there's no action, there's no plot, there's no narrative, there's no sound. And so what you're left with is kind of just looking at people being human. You're looking at people breathing and blinking and kind of trying to stay still. And you see how the human body is not actually that great at staying still. And so you become acutely aware of passage of time, the human body, your own body, as you're watching people try and stay still. And then I did some in a museum in Montreal. This one, man's kind of trying to become one with this painting, and the guards are coming in to stop him. Oh, it's funny. These have audio, so I guess these are the original raw videos. I didn't mean to grab these, but so in these you can probably hear me telling the people that they're doing a good job, and keep breathing, and I mostly just encourage. So when I made these videos, I didn't really know what am I trying to say? I didn't know what I was doing so much as I was kind of experimenting. And then a professor said, "Oh, you're doing tableaux vivants," and I had no idea what that meant, and so that kind of led me to do a whole bunch of research on tableaux vivants, which was a practice that kind of reached the height of its popularity around the birth of photography. So it's quite interesting to me the where these meet, kind of birth of photography, tableaux vivants, and then in my work, kind of dealing with that through digital means. Historical tableau vivant would people would do. This is kind of similar to a historical tableau vivant in a way. So people would pose, assume a position, and then stay as still as they could for 5-10 minutes, or until it fell apart. And they would restage art historical scenes or scenes from literature. So this is a tableau vivant I did at the Vancouver Art Gallery in 2007. In this work, they had asked me to come to the museum and produce a project there. But in this, they do this thing where they kind of open the gallery up at night. And so I guess I was being self-conscious, and I realized, they wanted me to kind of be on site making art. And I think that made me self-conscious. And so what I did was I posed people in a scene, and then you can see here, these two women played the artist. So I used 5 sets of identical twins, and then kind of opened up the frame further back so that the artist, in quotes, I guess, is present in the work as well. And so then this kind of mirror scene was performed twice that night for 10 minutes each. You can see here, actually, one of these twins was falling asleep. And so I suppose another thing I've been fascinated with in my work is mirrors, and mirrors' use in photography, which, quite interestingly, now in 2021, cameras are almost exclusively moving away from having mirrors in them. But for the last, 100, 150 years, mirrors have been a very important part of photography. Sorry, I should explain that. In a SLR, a single lens reflex camera, there's a mirror, and so you would look through the. Let's see now. Stop to share. You would look through the camera, and when you look in the viewfinder, you would look. There's a mirror there, and you look down, and then there's a bigger mirror blocking the film or the sensor, and then it would look out to the scene. And so when you actually take the picture, the mirror flips up and the sensor or the film is exposed. So the mirror is kind of this integral part of the camera, but it's also the only time you can't see through the camera is at that moment, that split second when it's taking the picture. And historically, those the first exposures were an hour, then they sped it up 15 minutes, and that's why you often see people. Well, one thing you'll see in historical photos, their eyes kind of glazed over because they're blinking. And so if they blink, let's say 20 times during a 2-minute exposure, then you'll see a slight film from the moments when they're blinking. And you'll also notice people have, well, like in the chair behind me here, they had like rests for them to rest on. And so they could kind of assume a pose and stay still long enough to expose the film. Share my screen again. So then in 2008 or 2009, I went and shot some projects at the, or not a project of several photos and videos at the Prado in Madrid. And so here we are working with Velázquez's Las Meninas. And this photo actually wasn't intended to be exhibited or an artwork, but it ended up, this with my assistant Andreas was kind of taking a picture here, but this picture ended up being part of the project because of the way, here I am shooting a video here of these two guys. But the 7 of us here in front of the work really mirror what's happening here in the work, which was not intentional at the time. We were just all like, none of us are posing except for these two guys. We're just here producing this work. But in Velázquez's work, you have that same kind of self-conscious production where you see the back of his canvas here and Velázquez is here painting. And you also have this mirror here in the work. And these guys are holding the mirror to kind of insinuate themselves into the work. And so this is the video that I was shooting at that moment. Also, when people are, while you can see people blinking and breathing and shifting, the mirror kind of amplifies all of that, right? The movements they're making are a couple millimeters, but this painting, which is, maybe 50 feet behind them, the movement up and down on that painting is exaggerated. So I liked that effect that it had. These are two photos that I shot at the end of our day at the Prado. Always do the one you might get kicked out for last. So this one, I mean, we didn't actually touch the sculptures, but so this is called Aphrodite. So it's a double-headed sculpture called Eros and Aphrodite. And so I named the one where she's kissing it Aphrodite, so she becomes the god, and this one Eros, so he does. It's kind of, my work is often concerned with sort of how we perform in museums and kind of okay behaviors, not okay behaviors, and kind of, I suppose, all to the goal of kind of thinking about our performances, our presence, our ability to be like a social agent in, not social agent, historical agent in, in relation to art and art history. And I guess how really, I don't think that a work, even a work such as Las Meninas with, lots of books written about it, I think its meaning is still always in flux, both from kind of contemporary historical factors in terms of what's going on in the world, but also as an individual, when you approach the work, you can read the label and learn a lot that way, but you also, take in the meaning of the work in a very personal way. And that's kind of negotiated between you and the artwork. In 2009, I did a project around the Raft of the Medusa, Géricault's painting from 1816. And we built this project in 100 Mile House, which is, I suppose, what, halfway to Prince George or something? And we shot it in a bingo hall. And so everyone in the community really came together. And this kind of became the model, I suppose, for the kind of community-based projects that the project in Prince George that you can see at Two Rivers Gallery right now is part of that body of work. So I came from Montreal and brought the camera gear and these lights that you can see us setting up here. And Gus Horn, a local guy in 100 Mile House, set up this, found a painter to paint this backdrop, found the scaffolding to put it up, helped build this raft out of we just built it out of found rope and wood. And hoisted it into place. And then we worked with students from the high school, and Gus actually went there and did yoga, kind of prep yoga stuff with the kids, which I never do. I just pull people in and ask them to stand still. And we also performed it twice live. So here you can see the pipe and draping, the blue around. And the raft here is pretty much ready to go. And here we are doing a live performance. So actually this project and the one I showed you at the Vancouver Art Gallery with the twins are, I think, two of the only objects projects where I've done a live performance. And then this is the video. So in this work, I was really trying to, I'm never really that concerned with high accuracy, but getting pretty close to Géricault's painting. I subsequently in 2016 did a project in Senegal about the Raft of the Medusa, but there I focused more on the actual, because there were drawings of the raft. So there it was more about what the raft actually looked like. Whereas here it's more about what the raft looked like in Géricault's painting. It's the empty raft. And I try and do these works where I like this, the water here, while it looks, pretty real here, the water is really just one color on raw canvas. The clothing is all just, clothing we got at the secondhand store, dragged out to the creek behind the IGA. And actually this axe right here, we hit all the clothing with the axe, and that's how we got it dirty and put holes in it so it didn't look so new. Yeah, here you can see. But I want things to kind of gel on camera, but then as you look more closely at them, you start to see, okay, she's wearing underwear that we soaked in coffee. He has a dirty sheet wrapped around him. This guy's wearing maternity pants. So yeah, I'm not trying to really hide. I'm trying to kind of get things to come together for a second, but then also allow them to kind of re-fall apart again. So you can look at these people as kind of individuals and sort of wonder what they're doing in this moment, rather than be completely teleported to somewhere else, which I think is what's so nice about a real movie where there's plot and action, is that sense of being lost and being elsewhere, and not being aware of your own body. In this work, I like the viewer to be aware of their body and to kind of ask themselves what they're looking at, to get kind of popped out of the image. Because at first it looks like a photo, and then when you see this guy breathing, and then it's this guy wavering, and this guy breathing and blinking, then you start to wonder what is this? What is this performance? In 20, I'll talk about this project. I'll talk about these new projects, and then I'll come back to the Prince George project. So in 2019, I did a project in Richmond, and we based it on the Decameron, which is a book by Giovanni Boccaccio from the 14th century, and it's about the plague. So it's about a group of 10 people who kind of sequester themselves so they don't get sick for 10 days, and they each tell a story per day. And so in the end, you have 10 stories, 10 people, so you have 100 stories total. And in Richmond, normally, as I'll show you later for the Prince George project, I start in the archives and often make a project related to where it's being made. But in these projects, in this one, and I guess in the Raft of the Medusa as well that I just showed, it's really taking something from sort of the Western art historical canon and then pulling it apart and repopulating it with people from whatever specific situation the project's being made in. So we settled on these 5 historical paintings from the 18th and 19th centuries that are based on, so this one is based on a story from the Comeron. This one is showing the people sitting around telling stories. This one is Isabella and the pot of basil. So the story is that her husband cut off her lover's head, and she buried it in this pot of basil. And she's kind of coming to I don't know, have some sort of union with her dead lover who's now in this pot of basil. Here's another one of them in this kind of walled garden, passing the time and telling stories. And this is another one from a story. And so this project we did, the Prince George one we did over George, will have to remind me, but I think we did it in 10 days or 11 or 12 days. This project, we had a month to do these five projects. So when we arrived, this is really day 1 or day 2. So we really hit the ground running. And most of these people are volunteers. There I am, and there's the curator and Russ here, who came and helped with the Prince George project as well. But the majority of the people working on these projects are volunteers. And so what I do, I go and do a presentation, kind of similar to what I'm doing now, explain my past projects, explain what I think I'm going to do in the local situation. And then I ask for volunteers, and nobody really has to try out. If you show up and you're into it, then you're part of the project. And so you'll help build the project, paint, construct, and then if you want to, you'll step in as a model, as many people in Prince George did. And so here at the Richmond Art Gallery, we started in their theater space. And then, one thing we always do is have, it's funny because actually the project in Prince George was kind of, I guess now it's 7 years ago. So there we weren't as developed with our snack situation, but now we, in Prince George, actually it was nice because we had a couple people that were cooking meals and bringing them in for us, which was wonderful. Here at the Richmond Art Gallery, we had a fridge and some tables with food. And so, we're eating lunches together and people can grab snacks whenever they want. And it's kind of like a summer camp kind of vibe as we're working hard towards this kind of shared goal. And then the people who were in the project become the models for the project. And for the project here, I also did a series of dinners. So we all sat around and ate, which was nice, and socialized, kind of took a break from the production. But then also I kind of froze the dinner at certain moments and shot video. And then those videos I'll show you later became part of the project. So here we're actually eating, but then we're pausing to make these videos. There's Russ. So here you can see the Isabella and Pot of Basil kind of coming together. This is a woman angel from one of the youth groups at the Richmond Art Gallery that was helping build and then became the model for this project. And people don't have to have any, some people come in and they're quite skilled and help out, and some people come in not knowing how to paint or not knowing how to put together wood and jump into that. So it's quite open what people can do. And again, the kind of building quality is kind of I like to think of it as like a kind of a high school play sort of flats quality. And people can come, you'll see some people more than others. People, some people come 6 hours a day, every day. Some people come 2 hours a week. So it's very flexible and kind of changes over time. And then when we're shooting, if we have a budget for it, we'll bring in a professional film crew, or I'll at least get somebody to assist me so I can play more like a director role in that moment. And you'll notice here we have 3 cameras. So I'll often have one camera shooting stills and then 2 cameras shooting the video, so I can have a slightly different framing. Because when you ask people to stand still, you can't kind of jump around and ask them to pose the same way you would if you were just taking photographs. And over here on the left, you'll see I have a big flat screen. And so that way I can see a kind of live preview of what I'll get. These are some of the other sets. And so then we move from that theater space into the gallery space, and we shot the project in here. And when I cast people, I'm not concerned with kind of race or sex. People kind of come in and occupy the shell of this other work, and they can. People tend to kind of wind up in the position they're in, rather than me kind of selecting so much. People can see the shots that we're building. And so then they can decide where they want to step in and who they want to pose as. And so the exhibition then had these 5 projections and then some elements of the sets around them. And it was shown in the gallery or first shown in the gallery where it was produced. And then in the back area here, you had the videos I was talking about with the dinners and some audio that was like interviewing people and asking them kind of about how they ended up there, sometimes how they ended up in Richmond, sometimes how they ended up helping with our project, sometimes just anecdotes from their life. And so sort of, it was kind of a new thing I hadn't done before to kind of open it up even more and kind of tell you more about the people that worked on the project. I think it was successful. Here's the final video from this one. She was very, very good at staying still. So you have to look, when they're projected bigger, it's easier to see, but I'll just show you some of the videos. So these are the videos based on those paintings I showed you at the beginning of this project. This guy on the right had a really hard pose, leaning over and with his arm out. And the woman on the left as well, holding this rose. And so these are when these are shown, they used to be projected quite a lot, but now mostly it's shown on a screen, like a flat screen. I like that better because I find when it doesn't need special lighting, it doesn't need to be in a dark room. And then when you approach the work, you see it as a photo or as a still image, and then it kind of creeps up on you that there's movement, and so you can kind of choose to engage with it and disengage in a way that's similar to a painting or a photograph. Whereas videos, when you go into a room and you're watching a video, it's kind of a different thing. Then this project I just did a few weeks ago, so I thought I'd show you kind of something recent. So this obviously is not my work. It's Picassos Guernica. And I did a project around Guernica in 2016. There is an exhibition currently up at the Raimi Modern in Saskatoon, and they wanted to show that video from 2016. So they're showing that video, but I was working on another project around Guernica. And so we decided that I would go there and produce a Guernica there with sort of found objects that would then be part of the exhibition. So 10 days before the exhibition opened, I showed up in Saskatoon. And first thing we did is drive around and collect. I'd been in touch beforehand with some antique stores and said to them sort of, do you have anything basically that you bought over the years that you're not going to fix up and that you wouldn't mind giving to a project for the Raimi Modern and you'll never see it again? And luckily, they gave me a bunch of stuff, and people who worked at the Raimi brought things in. And so this is kind of an assortment of kind of the type of things we had to work with. These are in the exhibition across from the space that was designated for this project was Dora Maar, Picasso's lover's photos of, she was a photographer, and these are her photos of the making of Guernica. So we had these as a kind of almost like a touchstone for our project, where we could look and see how Guernica came into being. And so we assembled all the equipment, or not all the equipment, all the kind of raw materials, if you will, or junk for our project in the loading bay. This guy came in and fumigated it. So, because you don't want, a lot of the stuff had been outside, so you don't want insects and bugs in the gallery. And then we brought it all up to the gallery and projected Guernica onto the walls so we would have a kind of a template. And then working with a group of 5 volunteers. This is my assistant, Nicole, here, and the 5 volunteers who are all students at the University of Saskatchewan. They're art students in their undergrad and masters. And so this was day 1. So we brought them down to the loading bay and just started, it's almost like in one of those shopping show or cooking shows where they go into the pantry and you grab all the supplies. It was like that. And then we brought it up and started building. So there was really no direction given. So everybody gets their sort of, there's a lot of, I guess it's like an unspoken negotiation, right? So people are kind of building at the same time, looking at what their neighbors are building, thinking about their own thing. And somehow it all came together, because I didn't choose the palette. I didn't tell them what materials to use. We just all kind of worked on little bits and filled it in almost like a puzzle until it all fit together. I think some of these might be videos. So you can see in the space. Oh, and of course we had music. We had music and food because you need those. And in this case, the 5 of us worked quite nonstop. So it was sort of probably 7-8 hour days for a week to get this done. Here we are re-upping in the loading bay, bringing up more stuff. This is the elevator, but we had just grabbed it from the loading bay. And then slowly you can kind of see the pieces of Guernica coming together. And in this work, I wanted to have some things going on behind it as well. So we kind of filled in the back with some other junk so that there's kind of a side view onto the work as well. It was nice too, because it's in the exhibition and we're building it in the space. Oh, this is, we all signed it and we all signed this and kind of hid it in the work. But because it was just in this exhibition and then it won't have a life afterwards, we were able to kind of put it together with the hot glue, zip ties, kind of whatever we felt like. There was no pressure to make it a long lasting object. It's made of junk and then it's going back to the junk pile after the exhibition. And we had this stuff on the floor, which was quite hard to take out at the very end because we had to kind of slip it out from underneath. And so as we're building it, as we're doing the background and finishing touches, they're installing the exhibition around us. So here we are, the backdrop's up. We just have to pull out the floor and fine tune the lighting. And here you can start to see the things on the floor and the things behind. And here we are. So then the opening was the 2 days after we finished building it. Here you can see from the side. And here's the other work. There's a Robert Longo, art and language. There's like a kind of maybe 7 other versions of Guernica in the space. It's called Guernica Remastered, and the curator is Alma Mikulinski. Here you can see the bottles, knives, and forks that we tucked behind the work. And that's the finished work from the front. Do people have questions, or should I jump into talking about the Prince George project?
I think you're good to talk about Prince George.
Okay, perfect. So for the Prince George project, as I was saying, I start these projects often at the archives. And so, and the Prince George project, I was realizing it wasn't, some of these projects I plan a little in advance, or I know what I'm going to do, like the one we just did that I just showed you. We knew it would be Guernica in the end. I didn't know what it would look like or what we'd make it out of, but we knew what it would be. If I remember correctly, which is insane, I think when we showed up, like, I think maybe it was 12 days before the opening in Prince George, we had no idea what we were going to do. So we went to George, can confirm if this is true or not, but I think it is. And so we went to the archives and found all these old photographs. And so we found out that there was a place called Virginia Hall that had burned down. And so these, you can see here, these kind of things from the ceiling. I just took little bits of these to incorporate in the work. You know, they did this kind of wooden hall, and they had lots of costume parties there. People would dress up. So here's the Grand Ball, Virginia Hall. And they had, this was like a dance card, you know, so you could, I think that's what it's called, dance card. So you would type, you know, you'd write the person's name that you were going to do the two-step circle with, or the waltz here. And so that, this is what we kind of based the project on, was this moment. So I'll jump forward here. This is the end where the place is burned down. It's the hotel fire, but Virginia Hall, that was named after the owner of the hotel. His daughter was Virginia, burned to the ground, so just completely gone. And so we imagine this as being, you know, for all we know, this could have been an hour before it burned down. And so this one photo here, I would say, is kind of the seed for this project, with this post here, and then all these people kind of dancing and being around here, mixed with some of these people in costume and stuff. And so then I'm going to actually switch for 1 second here.
Dad, just to answer your query, I think maybe up until about a month before you came to Prince George, we were looking at, I have only a vague remembrance of the project, but I think it involved a turntable. Does that ring a bell?
It does ring a bell, actually, because I came across that today. Yeah, it does ring a bell. I'm glad we went with this instead. So this is often I do plan projects in SketchUp, which is a kind of 3D modeling program. But this SketchUp is actually built after the fact, for the purposes of allowing the project to be rebuilt, which is what's up in Prince George right now, because a lot of it is just 2x2s or plywood. And so a bunch of what you see in the exhibition now in Prince George is not the original wood that we used, because the project came to Vancouver and then it didn't all go back to Prince George. But the paintings, of course, are the original paintings. And so the kind of important parts are still the same ones. But this allows me to show how the project worked. So we had these 6 kind of backdrops that were painted backdrops, and we had this column in the middle, which I just showed you, with those people kind of dancing around that column. And so using a very long lens, we were able to, so here, for instance, you could shoot somebody with this pole and this guy in the background and put some other people in here, and you would get the sense that you were in the hall, even though we didn't actually build the room around it. So by kind of cropping very tightly, as you move around and as we make shots around this pole, you kind of get the sense that you're in this space. But the space, we didn't rebuild the space. This is all we rebuilt, is what you're looking at here. Now I'll go back to the other ones, and hopefully what I'm saying will make some sense. So here we are building the project, painting the backdrops. Here you can see she's working on this, the central beam or post. I don't know, it's just small, but sewing up some costumes. This now is kind of full finished. And then this is the shooting. So for the shooting of it, we set up the post and we had the backdrop in the background. And then we would just shoot with a very, so this here is a shot, is one of the final photographs. And so you can see this jacket here, this background is from the painted background, but these people are all tight to the post, if that makes sense. Here you can see again, so my camera's way back here with I think it's a 200mm lens. And then we're lighting the scene. The backdrop is probably 10-15 feet behind the models. And then here I can see what I'm shooting on my monitor. So here, yeah, here's this one. So you have the camera, the post, and this one. You have these people, and then this is one of the shots, the final shots. And all the models, of course, are just people from the community. And then the project was shown with, maybe I'll jump forward for a second. This is how it was shown in Vancouver. So you had these two screens showing the videos that I'll show you in a second. And then this is set up in the space and you can kind of walk around it, but you can't kind of get inside of it. I'll come back to the video. So the video had these scenes of, some of them were kind of every day in between sort of situations, but then you see the light kind of gets this kind of orange glow, like maybe there's a fire somewhere. And then, people getting drunk, having fun. And then these kind of moments, where are they? Some moments when you kind of, a little bit of panic. There's George right there. Background actor. So I want to have kind of this sense of the moment just before something happens. When we get hypnotized here. And some of these costumes, like this one, were taken straight from those historical photographs. And here the moment when they see the fire and they're starting to panic. So yeah, does anybody have any questions?
I actually have a question.
Excellent.
I was wondering, I know based on especially this talk so far, I know that a lot of your work is rooted in art history and that Virginia Hall seems to be a bit of an exception in that it's more site specific. I was wondering if you've done any other projects that are more rooted in the place in which they were built.
Yeah. Well, I do a lot of public art as well, public art projects. And so those tend to deal more with kind of a local history. I like the idea of local history, but it doesn't always, like for instance, in the Richmond project, I spent a lot of days at the Richmond archives before settling on the Comeron. And there my issue was I couldn't, you have kind of like an indigenous history, and then you have immigrants from I don't know what you call it, Scandinavia, like Norway, Finland. Then you had Japanese that came to work on the railway. And then, more recently, a lot of Chinese immigrants. So there I found all these kind of competing histories and felt like anyone I chose would exclude the others. And so I ended up using something totally foreign and then kind of let people tell their local stories through their bodies and their actions in the work. But yeah, I guess kind of art historical works or moments have been more prevalent for sure than kind of local history moments, at least in my, I don't want to call it museum art or something versus public art.
For sure, thanks. Zoe also has a question. Is there any Canadian art or literature that you've thought of drawing one of these projects from?
No, not especially, but I'm not against it. I mean, a lot of the times sometimes things are sort of, this is really just an excuse for why I haven't done that, because it's probably something I should do. But a lot of the times things are like for the Raft of the Medusa project, I didn't actually choose the Raft of the Medusa. That guy, Gus Horn, he had wanted to do something around the Raft of the Medusa there. So I kind of came up with what we would do, but the kind of again, the seed of that idea didn't come from me. I'm trying to think. No, I mean, partly, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, for one, Canadian art history is, well, I suppose not Indigenous art history, but a lot of Canadian art history is not like old enough. You know, we don't have kind of, the other thing about the works I choose for some of them is that they're kind of, that kind of Western art historical painting is something we all kind of know how to read. And so I find it easier to kind of pull apart. And then when you put it back together in what I think is maybe sometimes a bit of sloppy or slapdash, or not slapdash, not the word, but sloppy, it still reads as, you can still read what it is. Whereas I'm not sure about like a Canadian work that would be then recognizable for what it is. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah, thank you.
You've done a number of projects, or maybe it's just one, but maybe it's more. I seem to have an idea that it may be more. You've done some work inspired by Edward Muybridge too, haven't you?
Yeah, I can, you want to pull that up? Let's see. Yeah, so my the Muybridge projects were, so these are kind of Muybridge sequences. I don't know if people can see them on their screen, but what I've done here is pose people in the positions from the Muybridge sequence, but it's not, he shot his very super fast, you know, with a high-speed camera that he actually fabricated himself. They're quite interesting contraptions in themselves. But here I have people, can you see these like people dressed in kind of like ninja suits, all dressed in black? And so they're holding these people in these positions. So when they're off the ground like this woman's being held up by 5 or 6 people here. See if I have any where you can see it more clearly. This one. Yeah, can people see that?
Yeah.
So again, just kind of, I guess I like to, yeah, take things apart and kind of then put them back together in different ways, or build something out of different material and process than it was originally built.
Yeah.
And then more recently, I did a project during the pandemic of called social distancing portraits. And so for these, I asked people to stay still for just about a minute, and I was same with the long lens, so I was maybe 25 feet away or something. And then there's always yeah. And so for these, there was sound, which I don't normally do. My friend Bridget Deitcher in Montreal did the sound for these. And then I did a little interview. And so this started off as a kind of project just at the beginning of the pandemic to try and keep myself busy. And it turned into 237 videos that are now in the collection of the Royal BC Museum, and we'll be touring around. But it was just a project that started on Instagram. I think everybody in March of 2020 was wondering, okay, I'm bored and what am I going to do? And so I just headed out on the street with my camera and did portraits of strangers, a couple of friends, and just kind of, did little. And then on the right here, you could always read what they read their little quote. Yeah, this project was interesting because a lot of my projects are kind of large scale, whereas this one really kind of just started as, taking a couple, because that's not my normal mode to go out on the street and do basically like straight portraits. But that's what I did for this project. And through this project, you could kind of see the mood change as we went from year one to whatever year we're in now. Any other questions?
I'm just wondering, do you have any pending projects, any projects coming down the pipe?
Pending projects. I'm about to start working on a project with a group of formerly incarcerated women here in BC. So I'm quite excited about that. I'm supposed to go to Uruguay and do a project, but travel's been on hold for a while. So what else? Some more studio projects. I did during COVID. I did I did another studio based project, which is not my normal, not what I normally do. So this is, I set up these tableaux and then kind of painted in the elements and had these mirrors on armatures, so I could kind of reflect parts of what's going on outside. But these were all shot in my studio, so they're kind of like studio portraits. And this actually, a lot of the models for this project came from my social distancing portraits. So this woman was actually, she was the first person that posed for me when I went out asking, because I would just go out on the street and call out to people like, hey, will you pose for me? And yeah.
Excellent.
Go ahead.
Sorry, we have a question from Sarah Nelman, our executive director, who is watching from home. And she says, the Mymusbridge images remind me of hidden mother photos in which shrouded mothers hold their babies while portraits are made. Your work seemed to slow down the moment. I wonder if you could elaborate a little on how you see the relationship between the still photograph and the moving image.
Sorry, I'm writing down shrouded mother. That sounds amazing. I've never heard of those, but I will look it up. Sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. I wonder if you could elaborate a little on how you see the relationship between the still photograph and the moving image.
Right. Like I think in a photograph, there's always that sense that you're at the photograph is always sense that you're at a particular moment. Like I almost think of it as like a fulcrum. And so you have this moment, and then there's the before and the after. And so it's really easy to kind of imagine where things are coming from, what happened before, and possibly you can guess what happened after the photo was taken. There's also that sense of, in an old photograph that you sense, and Roland Barthes talks about this, like, you're looking at a photo and the person looks alive, but you then know that they're dead. It's a 100-year-old photo or whatever. In my work, it's kind of, you have that kind of photo sensibility and that idea of a before and an after, but then as it starts kind of dragging out over time, that you don't have that. And so it kind of negates that aspect that is normally present in a still image. In some ways, I feel like the differentiation between still and moving images has degraded recently, which is not saying that that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it's happened or happening. For one, like if somebody holds a cell phone up and aims it at you, then you kind of assume a pose and you kind of do this performance, but you don't know now whether they're taking a photo or a video. And so there's kind of an awkward moment. And also, whereas I used to have to use, film and then, a video camera and then later on like a digital still camera and a digital video camera. Now those are often one and the same cameras. And so there is some sort of a convergence of the two, I think. But there's still, I'm trying to what I'm trying to say, I guess, as the kids say, it hits different, right? Photographs and moving image. And so they function differently, but they have overlapping elements, I guess. Does that answer the question?
I think so. Thank you.
Great. Kate, any other questions?
That's all I have on my end. Feel free to ask any of your own, though.
Right. I think I've asked my questions, and Dad, I can say it's been a privilege to revisit with you and to chat with you, to learn about the work that you've been doing since we worked together 6 years ago or so. It's a real privilege to have Virginia Hall at Two Rivers Gallery. It's sort of a fascinating kind of collapse of past and present, and it's a very evocative work that I think still speaks to many of us in this community a great deal. We're very grateful to you for taking the time to come out tonight and to talk to us. Kate, I'd like to thank you for your support and relaying on the questions, and Kelly for your work transcribing.
Thank you so much. I wish I could be there, but this is the next best thing. Were there people that saw the exhibition that were in it that you know of?
I am not entirely certain of exactly who has been to see the exhibition, but I'm certain some folks. Well, I know for certain. In fact, yes, a number of folks who participated in that project have indeed revisited the show, and in fact, speaking with Sean and Peter from the college, they've been really quite happy to hear that we are exhibiting Virginia Hall again. By the way, I should tell you that the post is also the original post. I think we have the major components, but the local artist Rob Dyson did a fantastic job of putting together the other components as per your architectural drawings. So Adad, thank you so much. Everybody who's joined us this evening, thank you so much for joining us. I wish you a wonderful evening, and look forward to seeing you all in person in the near future. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.